how come Riot is going so much into gambling? $200 mythic variants, Jinx system, things like that. Gambling sponsors in esports. So I don't have any context on gambling sponsors in esports. I couldn't tell you about that. Couldn't, just not going to be able to give you any real information. And at the end of the day, I'm not like the best guy to ask about monetization. One thing I think is very important to note about gacha and gambling type mechanics in games is depending on how you execute them. Obviously, there's potential for any of these systems to be predatory and problematic, but depending on how you execute them, it is a reality that large numbers of players actually like them, especially in Eastern markets. A really, really easy one to talk about here is card packs and collectible card games. A lot of people will look at CCGs like Hearthstone, and some people will say like it's so crazy that they have card packs. That's like so consumer unfriendly. And the actual reality is that card packs are incredibly consumer friendly in terms of people's ability to enjoy a collectible card game. Doesn't mean card packs don't have inherent problems that come with gambling, but it just turns out that also when a game has card packs, that actually causes straight up a lot of the people who play that game to enjoy the game more. And so a note I just want to give about gacha mechanics, things like card packs and stuff like that is, like, I'm not going to get into exact monetization because, it's not my department, but it is something that is important to understand is that certain gacha mechanics, card packs, things like that, have the potential to create a game that is more enjoyable for your players. It depends on the game, of course, right? Like League of Legends, their gacha things are more about cosmetics, but like, a card game's card packs, one of the things to think about card packs is they help you like find your deck. It's actually very intimidating and rough to go into a card game where you have access to every single card. When you could just have any deck you want whenever you want, that's actually not for a lot of players not nearly as fun as having a deck that like you pulled some cards and then you build a deck around it and you gradually build that deck up, like giving people those guardrails, things like that. It's like, oh, I got a Ragnaros. How's that going to fit into my deck? Stuff like that. A game like Genshin, gacha mechanics like help people like, find the characters they like. Not everybody is going to have the same characters, and that creates a thing where it's like, I'm a Diluc main because I found Diluc. You're a Ayaka main because you found Ayaka, right? And like, you both like, it creates an attachment to characters in a way that I think is fairly positive. And so, yeah, just kind of noting that in regards to games monetizing, any type of monetization has potential for predatory problems, like 100% true, right? But there's definitely a number of ways to monetize that are also like tend to be fairly player value positive in terms of like players will look at that type of monetization and be like, hey, I like this is cool, this is something I want. And in regards to gacha mechanics, there are legitimately a lot of players who tend to like those systems. And so that's always something to think about in the context of these things. To me, when I think about gacha, my personal take on gacha, I'll give you my bias. I like gacha. I play Genshin Impact, and one of the reasons I legitimately like Genshin Impact or Magic the Gathering is because of card packs and gacha mechanics. So obviously my personal bias is that I do like these things. My personal takes on it is that, like, first of all, it's like there's things you can do that are like, you need to be careful about like how predatory is your system. So like, as an example, I generally like Genshin's system of like, here's your roles, here's it's pretty clear, here's how much free currency you can get, here's where your guarantee is, right? It's all pretty like clear and obvious versus other gacha games I've played. It's like the rare character has a 0.05% chance and there's no pity. And by the way, they don't even tell you the chances. That's not even legal anymore, but it used to be the case like back in the day when you'd play some gacha games where like you'd be like, I want that character, and like you literally wouldn't know how easy it was to get, and it would be, and you wouldn't have any guarantee of getting it, and like that felt pretty bad compared to like a system like Genshin's where it's like, hey, you know exactly what you're getting and when you're getting it and how you're getting it. By the way, I'm using like other games as an example because, again, like I'm not on the monetization team of Riot, so like I can give you my position on systems, but like I don't want to like put words in other teams' mouths, right? So there's that. And so it's a question of like, like what what are the actual mechanics of the system. And the other thing I think is important to think about is that what you're getting is like of value. Okay, I think that's the other important thing. When I say of value, what I mean by that is I think it's important that like when you roll in a character in Genshin or you get a skin in League of Legends, that the thing you got you feel was worth it, right? And everybody who plays a game is going to have a different opinion of like something that's worth it, right? Some people are going to look at League of Legends and be like, I want an epic tier skin and that one's going to be worth it to me, or a legendary and that one's worth it, or this legendary isn't worth it. I want a mythic variant, it is worth it, mythic variant's not worth it, etc., etc., right? Like everybody's going to have their different opinion of what is worth it and what isn't worth it. And so to me, the important thing to think about is, are the things we're making high quality? And again, that's up to you to determine if you think it's quality or not. I'm not saying what we're making is high quality. I'm saying like this is something I think it's important to think about. Are the things we're making high quality? And when people get them, they look back at those purchases and say, this was great. I like this. I'm happy with this. I wanted this. And when I got it, I felt it was really good, right? And I'm sure you've all had the experience in League of Legends of sometimes you buy a skin and you're like, this is the coolest shit, right? I'm so happy I bought this skin. This was me with Astronaut Teemo, literal years ago. I bought Astronaut Teemo, and I was like, this is the coolest freaking skin. When Astronaut Teemo came out, he had different VFX on his E, and he had a little moonwalk animation, and I was like, oh, right? It was like the coolest thing ever, right? And so I got Astronaut Teemo, and it was like, I felt really, really good about that purchase. At the same time, back then, I bought like, I think it was Tristana, Firefighter Tristana. And I bought that skin because I initially thought it looked cool. And then I was like, wait, this actually kind of is not that great. It's actually, not really happy with this, right? And so that's something I think about a lot in regards to things like cosmetics is, when you buy a thing, are you happy with your purchase? When you buy a thing that's more expensive, do you think that the extra money you put into it was worth it, right? One of the things, like, this is something you think about with like luxury goods, right? So if you go buy, say, a pair of jeans from Gucci, those jeans might cost 20x more than some other pair of jeans. And I guarantee you that those jeans are not 20x more quality than another pair of jeans. Like if you buy Gucci jeans, they're going to be high quality, but they're probably not going to be 20x or 30x or whatever higher quality than like a cheaper pair of jeans you could buy. But it is still very possible those jeans will feel like very, very, very worth it to you. Like I have this off-white sweater. I wear this a lot. And I really, really, really like it. I've had it for like 3 years and it's high quality. It is not 20x higher quality than like some sweater I could have gotten somewhere else, right? But like, to me, it was worth it, right? And so I have high satisfaction on this. Whereas like, I've bought other expensive clothes before and been like, these things are not worth it at all. These are terrible. These aren't cool. These are lame. And like, that's not worth it. And so just as like goods in real life need to be worth it, including luxury goods, I think that's important to think about in a game as well. Is like, hey, if we're charging you more for a skin, is it worth it? And that's always important to think about. But you own the jeans, it makes sense. So I'm gonna be honest with you here in that I hear this statement a lot. It's like, the statement is this: why would you pay for pixels, right? It's like, hey, why would you pay for shoes in-game when you could buy real shoes, right? But like, I think that's a very dated way of like thinking about stuff. Because at the end of the day, what you're paying for when you're like getting a cosmetic in a game is you're paying to like look a certain way in a game that you like, right? Like when I have shoes, I'm paying to like have these shoes that I can wear around the world. And when I get a League skin or a skin in Genshin Impact, I'm paying to have that visual play when I play the game I like. And it turns out that in regards to games, there's a lot of people who really care about the games they play and really love playing those games and enjoy the cosmetics in them. And so I think it's actually a little reductive or silly to like tell someone who, you know, plays League for multiple hours a day or plays Genshin for multiple hours a day that like it's not real, if that makes sense. It's like I think cosmetics in games are very real for the people who play them and legitimately like make people happy, right? Like when you're a Lux main and Star Guardian Lux comes out and you grab Star Guardian Lux and you run around and you're all pink and pretty, right? Like that's a good feeling, and it feels good to use that skin, and it enhances your experience in something you care about, right? When I'm playing Counter-Strike and I get a loot box and I get like a knife that and I open a knife, or I you know, have like an AK skin that I really like that cosmetic, while it is pixels in Counter-Strike, like makes me feel good when I'm running around with it. It's fun. It's like enjoyable to be like, wow, I've got this cool AK skin. I've got this cool knife skin. You can resell a CSGO knife? You can, that's true. But a lot of the value derived from a good is not the fact that you can sell it, right? So, again, like if you're talking about clothes, right? Like a lot of clothes you can't resell, but doesn't mean they're not valuable, because the value you're getting from the clothes is the fact that you're wearing them around, right? Like most people don't buy clothes with the plans to resell them. And I know you could, but what I'm getting at is most people don't, because that's not the value they're getting from the clothes. That's not what they care about. So you're saying you can resell clothes. I'm saying most people do not do that, right? And so that's the thing. It's just like when you're deriving value from something, it's not just the resale value in terms of like something's value. Something's value can be like, do you enjoy it in the game or the thing you're playing, right? Like if I buy a skin in Path of Exile, I can't resell that skin unless I, you know, sold my account, right? But that doesn't mean that skin doesn't have value for me, because it turns out I like running around in Path of Exile and having giant demon wings. It just feels good to run around in the game I play and have giant demon wings. And yeah, that's pixels, but it doesn't matter because I've played literal hundreds of hours of Path of Exile and I've got giant demon wings in a game I played for hundreds of hours. And so those demon wings that I have, despite the fact that they're pixels, have very real value to me as someone who plays and enjoys Path of Exile, right? Like that's the thing I'm getting at. And so I don't know, like I honestly very often feel like it feels like a very boomer take to be like pixels don't have value, right? Like this is the kind of like questions my like aunts and uncles would like ask me when I like started working on League of Legends. They would be like, but your game is free to play, and I'm like, yeah, it is. We sell cosmetics. And they'd be like, cosmetics, so like merch? And I'd be like, no, we like let you dress up in the game. And they'd be like, people want to like dress up in a video game, but it's not real. And it's like, well, when you're playing a video game, it's real because your experience is changed when you have a cosmetic in a game, right? People, and it turns out there's lots of people who really enjoy that and really like it and find real value in it. And so then tying it all back, again, so my personal take on selling cosmetics in a game like League, some that are going to be more expensive than others, is it is important that people, when they get a certain cosmetic, feel that it is of quality and of value and worth it to them. And so in my opinion, a good cosmetic is when someone buys it and they like, you know, look back on it, say a month later, they say, wow, I'm really glad I got that. That was really cool. It made me happy. It was worth it. And I think if that's the case, I think that to me that marks like a really good cosmetic, because you've, in my opinion, it's like there's systems where everybody wins. Everybody meaning like the game publisher and the player. Sometimes there's this adversarial view of anytime a game publisher makes money, a player loses. I personally don't have that take. I believe that there are ways you can monetize a game where everybody wins. The game publisher wins because, got to keep the lights on somehow, right? And like you're making money that way. And then the player wins because they got something that they value and think is really, really, really cool. And that's the important part to me.